Welcome. I'm sitting here under my favourite cedar tree that drinks gallons and gallons of this every day. The fourth element in our series is water, reserved for one of the most well-known stories about Jesus and how he, the Lord and teacher, washed the feet of his disciples on the night he was arrested. This story comes from John's Gospel, chapter 13. Now, before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know now what I'm doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "One who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean, and you are clean, though not all of you." For he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." After he'd washed their feet, had put on his robe, and had returned to the table, he said to them, "Do you know what I've done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you're right, because that's what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I've set you an example, that you also should do as I have done to you. Very truly I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you're blessed if you do them." When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Little children, I'm with you only a little longer. You will look for me. And as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I'm going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." So water. It's a symbol of being washed, of being clean, but it's more than that too. Of the four traditional elements, water is the only one that doesn't move of its own accord. Water moves, it flows, but it's always under the influence of something else. Look at this glass of water. If I hold it still, it seems flat. Why? Because the gravity of the planet beneath us is pulling on it. If I swirl the water and it spins around and around, seemingly alive, the reality is that its movement is entirely down to what I just did. And once it's used up all the energy that I put in, the planet will win again, and it will become flat once more. And yes, rivers flow, dancing down mountains in waterfalls or gently ambling through quiet meadows, but again, it's the earth pulling them. Watch the surface of a fast-flowing river, and you'll see how it seems to bubble and flow in a particular way, but it's because of an object in or underneath the flow, diverting the water. Water has no mind of its own. It's always moved by something else. There is a way in which water simply reflects its surroundings. What then about the mighty oceans? Who hasn't stood on the rocks of the North Atlantic and watched it pounding the shore hour after hour? Yet even that is not of its own making. The strength of the waves is down to the element air. It's the strength of the winds that drive the waves. When the wind drops, the sea is becalmed and the earth's pull wins again. Even the dance of the tides is down to the interplay between the earth, the moon, and the sun, as their cosmic dance draws the waters to and fro on the earth's surface. Always, always, water moves because of the intent or influence of others. It has no will of its own. Water, and being washed by Christ in it, is ultimately about making a choice. To some extent, we are all like water. Some of us perhaps feel we have very few choices left, that we always do what other people say. The way in which we flow is entirely down to them. Others have found that the only way to avoid this is to become as cold and frozen as the ice, only to realize that the price they've paid is a dulling of the emotions. For most of us, we've discovered that the many choices we thought we had are actually limited by chance, something woven into the very fabric of the universe, and by the genetics of what we inherited from our parents, again by a chance mixing of genes, and by the decisions that other people have made, maybe on our behalf, thinking perhaps we weren't capable of making the decisions ourselves. Yes, we can make what we think are free choices, but like water, they're always influenced by a multitude of other factors. Is there a way out of this fluid manipulation? I think so. For me, the way to freedom has been to add one more influencing factor, to choose Christ. Because when I do, he offers me another choice, and I think I am more free to make this one. Ironically, the choice he offers comes through the very medium that exposes my vulnerability to being influenced by others, as he washes the feet of his disciples in the element water as an act of servanthood. This, he says, this is the choice you can make, to follow my example, flow under my gravity, not someone else's, and serve others as I've served you. If I can serve you, how much more can you be a servant of someone else? You do have a choice. If you follow me, I will help you to become who I created you to be, someone who is water, yes, but also earth, air, and fire, all held in balance by my spirit within you. That's what I believe the Lord says. Truly, he says, flow under my influence and you will find freedom to be who I created you to be. But there is a cost to this, and the cost will be borne tomorrow. Amen.